Cowboys 4-1. They've gotten off to a very nice start, and Eagles have their hands full this Sunday night. But the way that Demarcus was talking yesterday, you would think that the Cowboys were the 5-0 team and the Eagles were the 4-1, or shoot, the way he talked about it, maybe the 3-2 or 2-3 team.
This is a reunion of sports for me here on Good Morning NFC East. I'm with my man Jody McDonald, host of Birds 365, and catch him on WIP, CBS Sports Radio. Jody Mac, how you feeling, man?
Good, Jeff Kerr. Were you just whining about Thursday Night Football? You mean these last 2 weeks have not been entertaining for you when touchdowns come like once in a decade, or it just seems that way?
You know, before that, I think it was the Dante Pettis touchdown, which we could argue was a touchdown or not. I think the last Thursday Night Football touchdown was Hayden Hurst back in week 4, back in September, Jody.
Damn. Yeah, not the prettiest offense over the last couple. And again, I'm like you, I probably overanalyze and like, that was not great defense. Sometimes you have games that end up in low scores and you go, damn, both of those defenses got after it. That quarterback had no chance on this side, that side, the other side. Were you uber impressed by any of the 4 defenses that played the last 2 weeks? Because I really wasn't.
You know, it's weird, Jody. So the Colts-Broncos game, I thought that was going to be low scoring because of those defenses. And really, Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson were just bad. But I can give them a pass because the Colts and Broncos defense has showed up more often than not this year. When has Washington's defense showed up at all?
They don't get after the quad. They did a little bit last night, but that's because my guy, Justin Fields, he holds on to the ball too long. He's just not a quick twitch guy, which I thought he was going to be when he got into the National Football League. He did it at Ohio State. Now, maybe Ohio State wide receivers get separation a lot quicker than Bears wide receivers do, but he just seems to hold on to it too long. Now, he's got the ability, kind of like the guy we get to see here every week here in Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts, to get out of there, and when he does make plays, turn it upfield. But if you're looking for him to make plays out of the pocket and just get it out quickly, right on time, right on the hands, he hadn't done that this year. I've been pretty damn disappointed the way Fields has played, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think his offensive philosophy helps here. Like, I think he's only rolled out of the pocket like 2 or 3 times last night. You can't do that with Justin Fields.
I think he's got the ability to make plays on the road, on the run. So I agree with you. They didn't get him out of the pocket quickly enough, but also their wide receivers, an average bunch at best. Mooney's okay. I know Pettis, you mentioned, did get that touchdown pass, but he's been around for a while and hasn't really broken out in any way, shape, or form. Kmet's an okay tight end. They did absolutely nothing this offseason to help out the Chicago Bears offense. And they look like it, the way that they don't score in their games on a regular basis.
I'm actually kind of impressed the Bears are 2-4 because I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Just it's an embarrassing product they put out for Justin Fields. I actually think Justin – no, you know what? I stand corrected. He did play with better wide receivers in college than he has in the NFL because he had Chris Olave, he had Garrett Wilson. Marvin Harrison was pretty much his 5th wide receiver. By the way, that guy's going to be a stud in the league too. For Ohio State, it just seems like if you want to go offense at Ohio State, draft a receiver, stay away from the quarterback.
The Ohio State offense is making it difficult to judge all the players in it because you don't know if they're good because they're playing with the players they're playing or they're good because they're good. It makes the and it will probably be the way that Justin Fields has played this way will probably have a bit of an effect on the way C.J. Stroud is judged. If you ask me, it shouldn't. I think he should be the number 1 pick in the draft. But then again, I thought Fields was underdrafted when the Giants got him at number 11 a couple of years ago. That Ryan Day offense is pretty good. Once we get another couple weeks into the season, shoot, Johnny Mack and I have been talking about it on Birds 365 the last couple of weeks, the fact that Matt Rule got to heave-ho as quickly as he did. So it turns the conversation already to, well, who are going to be the available coaches in 2023? When is somebody going to make a big-time run at Ryan Day? I think he's a guy who should merit consideration for an NFL job with how good he's been at Ohio State.
And he's got an NFL pedigree too. It's not like he never came from he was the Eagles quarterback coach at one point. So
Right.
he has the NFL background. To me, the guy I think Carolina should go after. There's two guys. If they want to go defense, I would go D'Amico Ryans without a doubt. And I wrote this for CBS Sports too. Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen is ready for that type of role, especially if they get a young quarterback in.
Steichen's done a very good job for the undefeated Eagles, but I will say this, and this is not going to score any points with Eagle fans. I didn't love what he did last week. I thought the overall game plan, getting it out of all the bubble screens that they ran, not a huge fan of the Arizona defense, and they held the Eagles in check until the final drive. Now, to Steichen and the head coach's credit, they did go back to their bread and butter on the final possession. To be able to get a 17-play drive that takes 8 out of the 9 minutes off the clock was pretty damn impressive. But up until that point, I wasn't wowed by what the Eagles did on offense as far as play calling goes against Arizona this past week.
The people I've talked to out in Arizona, they said they wanted to take away that big play from the Eagles. They didn't want A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith catching these 30, 40, 50-yard catches. So I think that's where the bubble screens came in. It seemed like Steichen was trying to find someone over the top, and I was rewatching the game, and it just wasn't there. So I think they were taking what they gave them, and that only led to the 20-point outburst that the Eagles put up on Sunday.
I guess that you could give the Cardinals credit on defense for either giving the Eagles a look and or disguising what they were doing and being able to get the Eagles to not only react but maybe overreact. The Eagles come into that game with the kind of offense they were playing. I would have rather see them go, no, we'll dictate terms rather than us reacting to what you're giving us. We're going to tell you, here's the way you're going to have to play us on defense because we're going to do what we want to do. The Eagles offense was a little bit more reactive than determining their own fate, which wasn't the way I would have attacked it on Sunday.
Don't you think the Cowboys are starting to get a little cocky heading into this game?
Well, at least one of them is. Demarcus Lawrence gave out some pretty good bulletin board material quotes yesterday. I just, if Demarcus is listening, or if anyone wants to tell Demarcus, come back and check out the show on YouTube thereafter. We check those standings in the NFC East. The Eagles are the undefeated team. Cowboys 4-1. They've gotten off to a very nice start, and Eagles have their hands full this Sunday night. But the way that Demarcus was talking yesterday, you would think that the Cowboys were the 5-0 team and the Eagles were the 4-1, or shoot, the way he talked about it, maybe the 3-2 or 2-3 team. No, the Eagles would be the only undefeated team in the National Football League. Now, Demarcus may be the kind of guy who says, how much respect do I give to my opponent on any given week? That would be zero. No, if we're taking on a team, I'm going to marginalize them both in my mind and what I say. But yeah, if the Eagles are a team that can use bulletin board material for motivation, Demarcus Lawrence gave him their fill yesterday.
Yeah. So the first thing I thought of was, and I never do this, the first thing I thought of, I tweeted. And I said, okay, Demarcus, I'm going to play devil's advocate here with you. An Eagles player could say back, well, what good offensive line have the Dallas Cowboys faced over the first 5 weeks of the season? You know, zero. They haven't.
Tend to agree. And hopefully, and it's trending in that direction, the Eagle offensive line is 100%. They did have 4 guys yesterday on the injured list, but all participated, which is a very good sign, limited as it may be, when the Eagles offensive line is all healthy. And oh, by the way, they didn't do all that badly, even with guys coming out of the lineup for missing either entire games or parts of the game. It wasn't like there was this massive drop-off when the Eagles' backup offensive lineman got in there. No, they on paper are one of the best, if not the best, in the NFC. And even with a backup here, a backup there for a couple plays, like Kelsey missed 3 plays the other day. It wasn't that big a deal. Yeah, they will be tested. The Cowboys have been very good at getting after the quarterback. They lead the league in pressures by a long margin, as a matter of fact. Not going to be near as Eagle against this Eagle offensive line on Sunday.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, I think he's your first or second in passer rating against zone coverage. And I know you talked about this, McMullen. I said I thought that was the one thing he needed to get better at this year, and I think that's why Hurts has been as good as he's been. They're putting guys in zone coverage. They're daring him to beat them with his arm, and he's doing it.
He really is. The steps that he's taken forward, Jeff, we talk about it all the time on Birds 365. It basically unpredictable. Even the biggest of Jalen Hurts fans, and there's a handful of them in town that I think believed in Jalen Hurts just because he's the Eagle quarterback, and not necessarily because they could eruditely explain why Jalen Hurts is just on the cusp of becoming this much improved passer. I think he just said he's going to be great because he's the Eagle quarterback. No phenomenal analysis there. Hey, I was on the bandwagon. I wanted to give him a chance. I liked what I saw. There was no way I was thinking he was going to be as good as he's been for these first 5 games, even for a guy who is well-placed in his corner. Yeah, he's been really good at almost every aspect of the game. There isn't an aspect of the game where I say either, well, he's about what he was last year, which wasn't quite good enough, or is certainly he hasn't gone backwards in any aspect of the game. All he's done is progress and take steps forward, and he's a huge reason as to why they're 5-0.
Yeah. I still laugh when they say, well, he only has 4 touchdown passes through 5 weeks. I'm like, but he has 6 touchdowns. Last time I checked, running passing touchdown, it's still worth 6 points.
The score that goes up on the board is exactly the same. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. The big play on Sunday, and actually turned out to be a key play. I think this has been underemphasized this week. The pass on 3rd down, the 17th play of that drive, that the Eagles surely wanted to convert into a touchdown rather than have to settle for a Dicker the kicker field goal, was a play in which the Cardinal defensive back had to get in at the very last second, made a hell of a defensive play, separate Quez Watkins from the ball. But on the play, he ended up getting hurt. And because he was hurt, the Cardinals had to use their last touchdown, their last timeout. If they had that last timeout to work with, and I know it's never a perfect thing to say that, oh, it would have happened exactly the same, but you add the time. Well, maybe the play calling is different. Maybe the execution is different. But if you just take it to its easiest step, if they had their last timeout after that Kyler Murray 9.5-yard slide, that could have played out completely differently. They would have had time for another play. Shoot, they certainly could have gotten a couple more yards to make it an easier kicker for their field goal kicker, or they could have scored a touchdown and won the game. So the fact that Jalen Hurts took the shot, they ran it all the way down the field, they throw it on 3rd. He threw a tough pass, but not an impossible pass. It took a good defensive play that eventually cost them their final timeout. That's a pretty good drive by Jalen Hurts. How do you knock that in any way? Specifically because the Eagles walk out of Arizona with a win.
Yeah, Vance Joseph, the Cardinals defensive coordinator, gave Jalen Hurts a pound on the back for that. He said, look, we called the right play. We executed it. The only way it was getting beaten was if a good throw was made. And a good throw was made. And, it's everybody goes, why did Vance Joseph do that? I'm like, well, technically it worked. It's just Jalen Hurts found Dallas Goedert, and Goddard was still short of the sticks. He got the yards he needed. And look, I mean, you're right. That was the play of the game. And the whole Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray thing. I'm not crazy about either of them, but I respect what they've been able to do for that tournament franchise. But it's time to start getting results, right? And Cliff, to me, I did like how he put all that Murray blame on his shoulders and said, look, we're the guys telling him clock, so spike it. But they also got to check the sticks, right? Same with Murray.
That play was on Murray, I believe. John and I debated this on our show this week. He thought it was as much on a shared blame between the coach, the quarterback, the stadium scoreboard operator who put up first down before he ever actually got the first down. So McMullen shared the blame. I put it on the quarterback. That's him. He's got to know. You have to have field awareness. He's not a wet behind the ears rookie. He's been around. He's been around long enough to get his contract extended in the $200 million range. So I'm sorry. You got to know where it is. And let me run this by you, because I know you're a good historian, and specifically an Eagle historian. I compared Kyler Murray after that game and where he's at in his career to a former Eagle quarterback. And that was a guy who was in the house the other day. You saw him in the locker room afterwards, glad-handing everybody. And that's Donovan McNabb. Because Eagle fans will remember, and I'm sure you do too, the third year, Donovan McNabb's third year in the NFL. He came out in preseason and said, I'm just a quarterback. I don't want to hear I'm an athletic quarterback anymore.
I remember that.
There was a reference to an African-American quarterback as compared to a white quarterback. But Donovan McNabb made a conscious decision. Listen, I'm not running anymore. Desperation, yeah, I'm going to run, but I'm not taking off near as often. I want to be a pocket quarterback and be judged the same way every other quarterback, white quarterbacks included, are judged here in the National Football League. And I think that hurt Donovan McNabb because his legs were a legit weapon. The same way right now Jalen Hurts' legs are a legit weapon. And Kyler Murray's legs are a legit weapon. But he doesn't want to run. He'd prefer to just run around and look like Fran Tarkin scrambling back there and eventually try and force a pass downfield when if he decided just to take off and go, he could move the sticks anytime he wants. And on that last play with him going into a slide, rather than dropping his shoulder and just making a lunge to make sure he got the first down, no, he did the protect himself thing. And that cost them the half a yard, and that cost them the first down, and their kicker cost them the game by going wide right. The first thing I thought of when Murray did what he did was, that's Donovan all over again. And the thing that really annoys me, or what if I were a Cardinal fan, is he got paid. I think part of the decision when quarterbacks make that they're not going to run as much as they have previously and or maybe should is, yeah, I'm not getting hurt. I want to get paid. If I'm an injured quarterback, I'm not getting paid. Kyler Murray already cashed the check. He already got the guaranteed millions of dollars. So do what you have to do to win the game for your football team. Eagles are lucky he didn't do that on Sunday.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you pointed out that McNabb quote. I do remember that. I think it was like the third week of the preseason he said that. And my dad and I used to over-evaluate when we watched these games. And I think it was the middle of the 2001 season. My dad would say, doesn't McNabb look a little bigger to you? And I'm like bigger muscular-wise or bigger? No, he said, no, it's like he's purposely making himself not able to run by being bigger. And yeah, I watched a lot of those 2000 Eagles. McNabb had no fear taking off. He was like,
None.
you know what? These guys can't catch me. I'm not getting hurt. And then all of a sudden, it slowly deteriorated. By the time 2002 came, he still was able to get yards when he needed to get them. And he still had that explosiveness. But you just kept saying, why don't you run there? Why are you trying to force the ball into Todd Pinkston or James Thrash? You don't have to do this. And you're right, Jody. I think a lot of quarterbacks start thinking like that. I don't want to be judged like that. But then you got the guys that are like Lamar, Jalen Hurts. They don't care. They just want a first down. They don't care what you think of them.
And that's why I like both of the players. I hope neither one of them changes. To me, the slide thing, you can take a hit anyway. Now, the NFL is going to throw a flag because they bend over backwards to protect the quarterback. But play the sidelines. You jog out about, and that way you can also draw a flag, and you might not get hurt. Because if you get touched, once you get into that out of bounds area, you know the flag is coming out. If you've got the ability to run with almost anybody on your team, you're as fast a guy as your wide receivers are, and you're a quarterback. It's a skill you have. It's a weapon you have. Don't be afraid to use the weapon just because it might not be the way most quarterbacks are judged in the National Football League.
Yeah, and there's a rookie quarterback that I like. He thinks like that. That's Kenny Pickett. I know if you look at the box score, if you look at that Steelers game, they looked all awful, and they did. But Pickett showed a lot of moxie in that game. Like, he was not afraid to take off. He was not afraid to do it. Like, when he slid past first down more. I love what he said after the game, when he was picking fights with Bills players and getting hit. Like, he said, I'm not putting up with this. I'm not doing it. I don't care if you're beating me 100-0. I'm not going to sit here and basically be your whipping boy. I'm not going to do it. And I think you gain a lot of respect in your locker room. Your first career start, You're losing 38-3, and you're picking fights with good defensive players on the Bills because they're hitting you later. He goes, I think that shot was uncalled for. To me, I want to go to war for that guy.
Yeah, I like Pickett coming out, and he's going to get a chance to be their starting quarterback going forward. It's kind of tough as your first ever NFL start to step in against the Bills. So he got a tough test out of the way early. I don't think Pittsburgh's making the playoffs. Sorry, Steeler fans who are watching right now. But I think they've got a nice 10-game evaluative period to find out how good Kenny Pickett's going to be.
Yeah. By the way, what is your take on the Cowboys-Eagles game? How do you feel it is going to play out?
Dogfight. I really do. Both of these defenses are good. The Cowboys defense has been as good as any in the National Football League this year, and the Eagles are right there with them. So I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. Points are going to be at a premium. I think both teams realize they can and should run the ball. The Cowboys have been successful without Dak Prescott in there because they haven't asked Cooper Rush to do all that much. And I don't think this is the week that Cooper Rush drops back and throws it 39 times. I just don't. I think the Cowboys will try and go mano a mano with the Eagles defensive line up front. They'll have enough success that they'll move the chains. Probably not a lot of 3 and outs, but not a lot of scoring either, Jeff. I think this is going to be a slow-moving game. It's not what Eagle fans want to hear. It's not what Cowboy fans want to hear either. I think everybody would rather see a 35-31 game. While I will absolutely say it will not rise to the ineptitude of the last couple of Thursday nights, I don't know that there's going to be a ton of touchdowns scored. I think it's going to be a ground and pound type game for both teams. When they go back and watch the tape and see what they did in that final possession against the Cardinals, just moving the ball down the field, couple of different running backs, Miles to start, mixing a Hurts run, Kenny Gainwell off the bench to also move the sticks. I think the Eagles believe that when we need to, we can run the football against anybody. Now, here's where I'll give Demarcus Lawrence at least some cred. This is the best defense the Eagles have played all year. I don't know that the Cowboys have played a great defense either, but this is the best defense the Eagles have played all year. So I don't know that they can just say, well, we can run the football anytime we want. Yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult against the Cowboys than against the other teams you've played so far. I think both teams are going to have a tough time putting points on the board. I think it's a low-scoring game that will be decided late. I like the Eagles. I'm picking the Eagles to win. I think it'll probably be about a touchdown. As I mentioned with John yesterday on the show, VegasInsiders.com website I use all the time. They had the game opening up as the Eagles a 1-point favorite, which is just ridiculously low. I don't know why or how. The only thing I could think of was because Dak Prescott might be starting, maybe they moved the line as much as they did. When it became obvious that Prescott wasn't starting, they jumped it up to 6. Now, a line just doesn't go from -1 to -6. It goes from -2 to -3 or -3 to -4. It doesn't jump as much as it did. I think it's close to what it should be. I think it should be a 5.5, 6-point line. That's what the Eagles have been each of the last 2 weeks. And I would say about the same here with the Cowboys. I think it's a touchdown game. I really do. I think it'll be hanging in the balance in the fourth quarter, which will keep us all up late on Sunday night and keep us excited and entertained. I'm sure there are a bunch of Eagle fans that would like to go, no, Jody. 31-7 going to the fourth quarter. I got to get to bed and get up for work on Monday. Not going to be the case. I think it hangs in the balance until the fourth quarter.
I do think, and this is where I love the mentality of Jalen Hurts. You don't see this outside when he's talking to the media, but I think this is a guy who smells blood in the water when it comes to this Cowboys team. I think, he remembers his first career start against the Cowboys. They got the early 27 lead, then they lost. Then last year, the Monday Night Football embarrassment. And, his words, by the way, embarrassment. I think Jalen Hurts looks at this game and goes, it's my chance again on the national stage. Every time we get the ball, let's go score a touchdown and let's make this Cooper Rush beat us. That is the key to beating the Dallas Cowboys. I thought the Rams showed so much out of Cooper Rush last week. The vulnerability he provides, because he's done a really good job, but Aaron Donald showed, you know what, the interior of this offensive line isn't as good as people are making it out to be. You get to him, he bubbled the football, you get him out of the pocket. He's not as comfortable as he wants to be. He tried to force some stuff last week. And it was hard to that game because the Eagles were all at the same time, and I'm doing the Eagles game. But when I rewatched that Cowboys game, I'm like, you know what? You can get this guy. I mean, he is a backup quarterback for a reason. And if the Eagles could jump out to an early lead, and I know you could say this every week, but if they jump out to a 14-0 lead or a 21-7 lead and force Cooper Rush to actually beat you with his arm, I don't know if he can do it.
Yeah, but it's going to be tough for the Eagles to get that 21 points that quickly against a Cowboy defense, which I think is pretty good. And your point about Hurts is interesting in that he is such a flatline guy. He doesn't play with emotion. He doesn't talk with emotion. He doesn't show a ton of emotion out there on the field. We all know he's a driven guy, and he puts in the time and the effort, and he's not going to come into a game unprepared in any way, shape, or form. But he's not a high-low guy. He doesn't let his emotions carry him to a new height or bring him down because of a low. He plays on that good, level, even path. So I don't know how the emotions going to play this week. I think Jalen Hurts will be Jalen Hurts. I don't think he'll play any better because it's a big game. I don't have the fears that he'll play any worse because it's a pressurized game. I think Jalen Hurts just plays to Jalen Hurts' level. And so far this year, it's been good enough to register 5 wins.
Yeah, I think for him, it's self-motivation, right? And look, I bowl with a ton of good bowlers that use self-motivation, whether it's the opponent they're facing or someone, they just need someone to get their gear up, right? And I think that's how Jalen Hurts might feel about the Cowboys. Demarcus Lawrence's bulletin board material isn't going to get him, but maybe the fact that, look, I've never beaten this team. This team has embarrassed me twice. He's not going to show it, but you can. I have a feeling like on a couple of his touchdowns or a couple touchdowns, you're going to see that that Jalen Hurts. What he does, like when in Arizona, he does that like victory scream or whatever he does when they go in the locker room after the win. I feel like we're going to see a little bit of that. Or Jalen Hurts on Monday Night Football against the Vikings. But he kind of showcases his personality a little bit.
A little bit, but not a whole hell of a lot.
No.
I really do believe that Jalen he's almost a flatline guy, as a matter of fact. Here's where I think the Eagles can get an advantage. And they don't show it as much, but you can see it in their personality when they're doing interviews. I think the 2 tackles can take that as major offense.
Especially the
Lane Johnson, who's been nothing short of spectacular so far this year, and a getting back in action Jordan Mailata. I think they'll both have plenty to say this week about what Trevor Lawrence had to say. Oh, really? We haven't played them boys yet, huh? Well, you haven't played these Eagles yet, big guy. And I think they'll both do a good job and have extra motivation because of the foolish Cowboy statements before the game.
Jody, we might talk about this on Birds 365, but biggest Eagles-Cowboys game this early in the season since?
Been a while. This big, 5-0 against 4-1. Yeah, 90s. How far do you think you got to go back, Jeff?
Maybe the TO coming back.
When did they play that year?
That was week 5. I think I'm trying to remember if both teams were 3-1 going. It was week 5.
Okay.
I just remember personally being a fan hyped up for that game because TO was coming back, and I really liked TO, but I wanted McNabb to beat him, and I just remember Brian Dawkins trash talking him throughout the game when they showed it later in the week on I think it was an NFL turning point at the time. I think it was like the first year they had like sound effects on NFL Network. That was the first year I had NFL Network, by the way. Maybe 92 when I think the Eagles were undefeated and the Cowboys had 1 loss and the Eagles beat the crap out of them at the Vet.
It's been a while since this big a game has been played this early in the season, and I'm glad you brought up the TO game. That was the year officially I removed my fan card from the Dallas Cowboy deck. When they signed Taylor Loans, I said, that's it. I give up. You're a bigger TO fan than I am. I thought the TO was a tremendously talented player, but as big a pain in the rear end as you're ever going to find. Who cared? that whole "he's my quarterback" thing just made me laugh out loud. T.O. cares about T.O. and
Jody laughs about that, by the way. Yeah. It's funny. It really is. Like Tony Romo would love it too. That might have been the one marriage I think T.O., at least with a quarterback, T.O. actually liked.
He may have liked him, but I think it was more about T.O. crying for himself that he didn't have a talented quarterback. Now the Cowboys do have Cooper Rush to come off the bench, which would make it exciting for us on Sunday, Jeff.
Oh, I can't wait, Joe. Yeah, you know what? It's weird too, right? Because the Phillies are in the playoffs. I feel like Dallas week hasn't gone probably the hype it normally gets. And maybe that's because my clock is, I'm a baseball nut, you know that. Phillies are in the playoffs, and I think right now that's kind of taking precedence of the state. But I feel like as the week's going on, as it's getting closer now, we're starting to get to the, oh, yeah, that's right. There's a big football game on Sunday, and the Eagles really have a chance to show, hey, you know what? We're the best team in the league.
Here's the one thing we know. The Phillies will have done what the Phillies will have done before the Eagles ever take the field on Sunday. You got today's game, you got Saturday, and then you got to fly down to Atlanta. If necessary, play that game 5. Either the Phillies will have already advanced to the NLCS and or will be recapping and looking back. Hey, it was a pretty damn good season. Took out the Cardinals, made the Braves work. By the time we get to Sunday night, sole focus, Eagles-Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, Jody, I got to let you go. I know you got a show coming up. I got to join.
And then you and me, you're coming back. You're going to give me a helping hand on Birds 365 later on.
Yeah, I'll be on at 9 o'clock, so I'll be there. And I'll actually be at Citizens Bank Park today, Jody. So it's going to be a fun day in Jeff Kerr's world. Jody,
I'm going to get more coffee, talk to McMullen. You wrap up your show. I'll talk to you in an hour, Kerr.
Yep, I'll see you in an hour, Jody. Thanks for coming on, my friend.